He walked into the lobby expecting a simple business meeting, nothing more. But the moment he reached out his hand, everything shifted. A cold stare, a step back, a silent judgment that cut deeper than words. In front of everyone, he was treated like he didn't belong, like he wasn't worthy of even being heard. What the woman didn't know, what no one in that lobby knew, was that the person she dismissed was the one holding the power to decide her company's future. And in less than 24 hours, everything she thought she controlled would turn against her. So what really happened next? Comment and tell us where you're watching from, and subscribe for more powerful stories. Before the confrontation that would expose hidden truths, Carter Cole lived in a world built on discipline, strategy, and quiet resilience. Every morning began the same way inside his Manhattan penthouse, screens glowing with global market data, analysts waiting for direction, opportunities rising and falling with the shift of a number. Carter had earned everything he had through years of relentless focus, long nights, and a calm determination that came from growing up with far less than what he now controlled. Despite running Cole Ventures, a multi-billion-dollar investment firm, Carter preferred simplicity. He dressed comfortably, choosing polos over tailored suits, not because he lacked resources, but because he valued authenticity. It was his unspoken test, one that revealed more about people than any financial document ever could. Some judged him instantly, some didn't, and those reactions told him exactly who they were long before a deal was ever signed. Across the country, Victoria Ashford, CEO of Ashford Technologies, faced a crisis she could no longer ignore. Her once glorified company was crumbling under financial pressure, investor fatigue, and internal issues that were beginning to leak beyond the walls of her glass tower office. She needed help and fast. Carter's firm was her last lifeline, the only entity willing to consider a massive investment capable of saving thousands of jobs. Carter had studied her company closely. The technology was strong. The numbers were alarming, and whispers from former employees painted a troubling picture of leadership. Still, he believed in second chances, when they were deserved. So he agreed to meet Victoria in person, hoping to see whether her character matched the vision she claimed to lead. That morning, as he stepped into the Four Seasons lobby with a leather portfolio tucked under his arm, he expected a simple meeting, a conversation, a chance to offer support where others had already walked away. What he didn't expect was the look that greeted him, or the judgment that would ignite everything that followed. When Carter Cole stepped into the Four Seasons lobby, he carried the same calm energy he brought to every high-stakes meeting. His navy polo was pressed, his portfolio organized, his mind focused. He was ready to discuss a deal that could rescue Ashford Technologies from collapse. It was supposed to be straightforward, a conversation, an evaluation, a chance to offer lifelines to thousands of employees counting on leadership to find a way forward. But as he moved toward Victoria Ashford, he noticed something shift in the air around her. The German investors by her side went quiet. Victoria's smile, which moments earlier had been sharp and confident, faded into something colder. Her eyes traveled from his casual clothes to his face with a scrutiny that felt less like curiosity and more like judgment. In her gaze, he recognized a pattern he knew too well, one that had shadowed him throughout his life, despite everything he had achieved. He extended his hand with professionalism and courtesy. Victoria didn't take it. She didn't even move. Instead, she stared at him with an expression that suggested he didn't belong in that room, in that meeting, or anywhere near her company's future. The shift was instant, subtle to some, unmistakable to others. The German investors exchanged glances. A woman on her phone stopped typing. Even the concierge seemed to freeze. Carter began to explain who he was, but Victoria's posture stiffened, her tone sharpening as though she'd already decided the truth. One assumption after another fell from her expression. That he wasn't a real investor, that he had no business approaching her, that his presence was an intrusion rather than an opportunity. He sensed the moment spiraling, the sting of a familiar injustice rising in his chest. A lifetime of navigating these moments had taught him restraint, patience, and dignity, even when those values weren't returned. Then came the escalation, abrupt and public. Victoria signaled security. First Jerome, the older guard with kind eyes, approached hesitantly. Then the younger white guard followed, rigid and ready to act. Carter could feel dozens of eyes following the scene, recording, whispering, judging. To Victoria, he wasn't the billionaire investor she desperately needed. He was a problem to be removed, an interruption to be handled. As the guards escorted him out, Carter kept his head high. Years in boardrooms and billion-dollar negotiations had prepared him for high pressure, but moments like this, where bias overshadowed merit, always cut a little deeper. Outside on the sidewalk, he breathed in the cold morning air, letting the sting settle into clarity. Victoria had failed a test she didn't know she was taking, and the consequences were already unfolding. Inside the hotel, tension rippled. The German investors stiffened, offering curt goodbyes before leaving altogether. Their flight couldn't come soon enough. Victoria brushed off the moment, convinced she'd handled a minor disruption. But the truth was already catching up to her. Back at her office, the fallout began. Her assistant Jenny recognized the name she had been ordered to delete. One search, one headline, one photo. Everything unraveled. The man she had dismissed was Carter Cole, billionaire investor, Forbes-ranked financial strategist, and the only person willing to consider saving her company. Panic surged. Calls went unanswered. Emails fell into silence. The board learned the truth and reacted with disbelief, frustration, and fear. Victoria attempted apologies, explanations, rationalizations, but nothing could undo the moment witnessed by a lobby full of people, some of whom were already posting, sharing, and talking. Her company needed lifelines, her employees needed stability. The future she had built was slipping through her fingers, and Carter, the man she had humiliated, had already made his decision. But the consequences were only beginning. The fallout from the lobby unfolded faster than Victoria Ashford could control. By noon, headlines circulated quietly across investor circles. By evening, the story reached her board. But nothing compared to the moment she finally understood what she had done, truly understood it. In her office on the 42nd floor, Jenny placed a tablet in front of her, hands trembling. One headline stared back: Carter Cole, the most successful investor you've never heard of. The photo was unmistakable. Same calm posture, same steady gaze. The man she had thrown out of a hotel lobby that morning was the only person willing to invest the $500 million needed to save her company. Victoria's entire world tilted. Her throat tightened. Her chest tightened. Her hands shook as she scrolled through article after article, each one confirming the same truth. Carter was not only legitimate, he was the opportunity she had been chasing for nearly a year. And she had humiliated him in front of a room full of strangers. She called him, no answer, emailed him, no response, tried again and again. Silence. Every attempt met a wall. Across the country, inside the glass tower of Cole Ventures, Carter sat in a quiet conference room, reviewing the incident with clear eyes and a steady mind. This wasn't about ego. It wasn't about anger. It was about character, something he valued more than projections, valuations, or market trends. The moment Victoria refused his handshake, everything he needed to know had already been revealed. Her board panicked. Richard, the chairman, demanded answers. Investors called nonstop. Screenshots from witnesses spread across social media, capturing the moment she pointed at him, the guards walking him out, the shock in bystanders' faces. There was no containing it now. By the next morning, Victoria boarded a red-eye to New York, wrinkled suit, no sleep, no plan, only desperation. She walked into the marble lobby of Cole Ventures and asked to see Carter. But Lisa, the receptionist, offered her a sympathetic look. No appointment, no availability. Victoria waited anyway. Hours passed. People whispered as they walked by. Everyone recognized her. Everyone knew why she was there. By late afternoon, Carter finally agreed to meet. Inside a small conference room, he sat across from her with quiet strength. Victoria's voice wavered as she tried to apologize, but Carter raised a hand, not in anger but in truth. He told her what she had done, not the misunderstanding she clung to, not the excuse she repeated, but the reality. She had judged him instantly, dismissed him publicly, and reinforced a pattern he'd spent his entire life navigating. She hadn't hurt just a meeting. She had revealed who she was when she thought no one important was watching. His words landed with devastating clarity. Then came the test Victoria never expected. Carter slid a document across the table, conditions she would have to accept if she wanted him to reconsider. A public apology, a cultural audit, leadership changes, personal accountability, and long-term commitments to rebuild trust across her entire company. Victoria stared at the list, her reputation, her pride, her legacy, shaken, threatened, exposed. Her next decision would define everything. Accepting Carter Cole's conditions wasn't just a business decision for Victoria Ashford. It was the beginning of a reckoning she could no longer outrun. The public apology, the cultural audit, the leadership overhaul, the personal commitments. Each step forced her to confront the harm she had caused, not only in that lobby, but throughout her company's culture. And while the investment eventually went through, it came with a shift she never expected. Accountability became the foundation of every change that followed. Inside Ashford Technologies, employees began to see something unfamiliar: transparency, fairness, and a leadership willing to listen. Marcus Brooks, now stepping into the CEO role, brought stability and direction the company had long needed. The workplace transformed. Voices once dismissed were finally heard. Doors that had been closed to many slowly opened. The numbers improved, but more importantly, the culture improved. And Carter watched this quietly, not with triumph, but with purpose. For him, the incident was never about revenge. It was about drawing a line, holding someone in power accountable, and setting a precedent for the world to see. He knew this wasn't an isolated moment. It was a reflection of something deeper, something lived every day by countless people whose stories would never make headlines. Victoria changed, but the lesson reached far beyond her. The documentary, the discussions, the case studies, the ripple effect spread across the industry. Companies re-examined their policies. Leaders reconsidered their assumptions. Workers found their voices strengthened by a moment that exposed an uncomfortable truth. Carter's stance reminded everyone watching that dignity shouldn't depend on appearance, status, or wealth. It is a right, a basic human right. And the cost of ignoring that truth is far greater than a lost meeting or a missed opportunity. Because racism isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a glance, a doubt, a dismissive gesture that tells someone they don't belong. But when those moments are confronted, boldly, clearly, and without excuse, they become catalysts for real change. So the question remains: when the moment comes to choose between silence and accountability, which side will we stand on? If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And subscribe to Black Community Struggles for more powerful stories about justice, truth, and our community's fight to be seen. And don't forget to hit that like button. Your support helps these stories reach the people who need them most.